General Hospital spoilers tease that one of the darkest and most twisted storylines quietly rising in Port Charles is Lulu Spencer's haunting quest for the truth, a journey that not only unearths long
buried secrets but threatens to send shockwaves through the entire Quartermain family. Lulu, who once believed she was merely an outsider in the tangled world of Brook Lynn Quartermain, now finds herself at the eye of a storm of suspicion, with scattered but pointed clues all suggesting one thing: Brook Lynn may have known, or at least suspected, Gio Palmieri's true identity. Yet for some reason, perhaps fear, shame, or a scheme buried by the previous generation, she chose silence, allowing the truth to rot away in darkness. Lulu has started piecing together everything she's heard, seen, and sensed in recent times. Brook Lynn's evasiveness when the topic of children comes up. The way Lois's gaze drifts when Gio is mentioned at family dinners, Dante's disproportionate reactions when he believed Gio posed a threat to Rocco, none of these signs feel isolated anymore. Instead, they're forming a logical thread that Lulu can no longer ignore. She begins investigating, digging through old hospital records, scraps of adoption documents, and speaking to witnesses who once worked at the medical facilities Brook Lynn visited as a teenager. Each document, each testimony gradually paints a distorted picture, one where Gio is not just some anonymous adopted child, but a lost piece of Brook Lynn's past, a son she thought she had lost forever. The deeper Lulu goes, the more she feels herself drawn into a labyrinth where the truth is no longer black or white. Every new piece of evidence feeds her growing obsession. She starts to suspect that not only Brook Lynn but also Lois, and perhaps even Brook Lynn's grandmother, had conspired to craft a narrative that kept Joe close, without ever letting Brook Lynn know he was her biological child. Did they do it to protect her? Or to control her life, as they always have? Lulu can't be sure, but she knows one thing: that silence is a crime. And it's not just a simple cover-up. It's a quiet, relentless assault on human nature, a subtle manipulation of reality, arranged so cleverly that everyone believed nothing was wrong. But under Lulu's scrutinizing gaze, each layer of deception is beginning to crack. She realizes that even if Brook Lynn doesn't know the whole truth, she may have sensed something, but chose to ignore it out of fear, denial, or the inability to believe Gio could be the child she thought she lost. This feeling of suspicion, uncertainty, and helplessness in front of a truth that could shatter an entire family, is consuming Lulu. She can no longer sleep peacefully. She can't stop thinking about the pain in Joe's eyes when Dante scolds him, or the guilt she carries for knowing something others don't, or won't acknowledge. In her mind,
a storm is brewing, one where the small lies of the past are now dragging catastrophic consequences into the present. And it's this psychological attack, silent, constant,
and unforgiving, that is making her dangerously obsessed. Lulu knows that if she stays silent, Gio will keep getting hurt, Brook Lynn will keep living a lie. And Dante, the man who once meant everything to her, will never know that he has been cruel to his own son. But if she chooses to expose everything, she risks blowing apart the fragile threads connecting the Quartermains and the Falconaries, an emotional detonation that could push both families into unprecedented crisis. In that moment, Lulu realizes this isn't just an investigation into the truth. It's a psychological war, where she must face the brutal consequences of knowing too much. The madness inside her is no longer a feeling, it's a growing entity, fed by each document, each unveiled lie, each panicked reaction from those who believed their secrets would remain buried forever. There's no turning back. The truth has started to surface, and it's no longer a question of whether Brook Lynn knew, but why she stayed silent. And what she will do when that silence is shattered under the weight of truth, of stolen motherhood, and of things that can no longer be salvaged. Lulu is no longer just a woman holding a devastating secret about Joe's true identity. She has become the eye of a hidden storm, where every movement is guided by her chilling calm and smoldering calculation, like small fires eating away at the web of lies that Brook Lynn and Lois once built. This isn't merely about exposing the truth. Lulu is deliberately crafting a lingering obsession, a suffocating tension that makes those involved question what is real and what they've buried. For Lulu, this is no longer about shining a light, it's a silent, strategic campaign, where every step, every small detail, is calculated to corner Brook Lynn and Lois into emotional collapse. Lulu learned early on that if she simply confronted them with the evidence, she'd be met with denial and fake tears. She understands Lois, experienced, powerful, controlling, and Brook Lynn, who's lived a life full of unspoken truths. That's why Lulu chose a different path, to make them afraid from within, to make them question each other. To let the fragile mother-daughter bond crack under pressure she applies from the outside. Every move Lulu makes is a masterstroke of manipulation. No one notices her presence in conversations. But she's always listening. No one sees how carefully she observes Brook Lynn's reactions whenever Gio is mentioned, but Lulu remembers everything. She doesn't need to say anything, because her silence is her deadliest weapon. Brook Lynn begins to feel uneasy, not because she knows what Lulu knows, but because she isn't sure how much Lulu knows. Or whether she's being watched at every word and gesture. Lois, usually calm and in control, begins to waver. Especially when she notices that carefully buried details are being unearthed, one, by the woman they never thought capable of resistance. Lulu sees the tremble in Lois's voice when she talks about Brook Lynn's teenage years. She catches the anxious look in Brook Lynn's eyes whenever Dante unconsciously mentions Gio. None of it escapes Lulu's notice, and she uses it to construct a new world, one where Lois no longer holds the reins, and Brook Lynn can no longer hide behind innocence. Lulu isn't just revisiting a past they wanted to forget, she's forcing it into the light by letting those involved unravel it themselves. On this journey, Lulu isn't insane. But she's becoming dangerous, no longer ruled by emotion. Every move she makes is part of a long game, a quiet recalibration of everything Lois once orchestrated. What Lois believed was buried is now being resurrected in the most insidious way, not through confrontation, but through drawn-out anxiety that leaves her sleepless and uncertain. Brook Lynn, meanwhile, feels increasingly suffocated. Her conversations with her mother grow strained, their embraces no longer feel safe. She begins to sense something rising, that a truth too painful to accept is slowly engulfing her life. And at the center of this spiral, Lulu remains quiet. She doesn't accuse, threaten, or force, but her presence alone is a constant warning that a storm is coming, and the explosion is near. Lulu's assault isn't rage unleashed. It's a calculated progression, a wildfire sparked by the tiniest embers, a glance, a cryptic remark, a perfectly timed nod. While Lois clings to her power and family prestige. And Brook Lynn struggles to identify the tide washing over her, Lulu, day by day, hour by hour, is creating a wave of dread that can't be extinguished. And when every adjustment, every plan reaches its final pressure point, Lulu knows that there will come a moment when Lois and Brook Lynn have nowhere left to run, nothing left to cling to but the truth they once chose to deny. And in that moment, Lulu won't be there to punish, but to witness. To witness the inevitable collapse of those who chose silence over courage. Dante and Sunny.
Two men who have always trusted in what they could see, are going through one of the most devastating shocks of their lives, a truth so cruel that no matter how hard they try,
they simply cannot accept it right away. When the veil of secrecy is lifted, revealing that Gio is not just a troubled child but Dante's biological son, the result of a reckless, guilt-ridden affair between Dante and Brook Lynn in the past, every belief they held about family, forgiveness, and responsibility is turned upside down. Dante can't believe what he's hearing. A man who always prided himself on being a good father, a righteous man, is now forced to confront the reality that he treated his own son with coldness and cruelty, the boy he once criticized, blamed, and turned his back on. Nothing could break him faster than that guilt. But what unsettles Dante even more than the truth about Gio is how Brook Lynn chose to deal with it, with icy denial and an eerie silence. Brook Lynn didn't just hide the child, she refused to accept that Gio was her own flesh and blood. That denial, bitter, trembling, desperate, was like a knife to Dante's heart, making him feel betrayed. Robbed of his right to be a father, and helplessly watching the collapse of something sacred he never even knew he had. And Sonny, a man who has endured countless losses. Who has stood at the crossroads of life and death, between family and enemies, for the first time in years, finds himself unable to stay composed. To Sonny, family is everything. And what's happening to Dante is something he never wanted to see. But when he learns that Brook Lynn, the woman who once entered their family as one of their own, had kept the truth about his grandchild hidden for not just days, but for years, he finds it unforgivable. Sonny no longer looks at Brook Lynn with the same empathy. Now, his eyes reflect disappointment, simmering anger, and the sorrow of a grandfather who's just discovered that his grandson grew up in loneliness and uncertainty. No matter what excuse Brook Lynn offers, she cannot deny one thing, deep down. She knew, and she chose to turn away from the truth. She couldn't accept the child, not because she didn't love Gio, but because of the fear of the past, the chaos in her mind. And because she never wanted to face the mistakes she made. But her denial didn't erase those mistakes. It only proved that the trauma inside her never truly faded, a trauma rooted in a dark past. When she was forced to give up her child under circumstances no one knew, when she was coerced by her mother, when the family's reputation was placed above motherhood. That story is no longer a secret. It has been confirmed, and it's spreading like wildfire, burning through the fragile ties between Brook Lynn and the people around her. Those who once loved and protected her now look at her differently. The innocence is gone, the compassion replaced by doubt, anger, and pity, for a child who had to grow up in the shadows of lies. Brook Lynn's story is not just a personal tragedy, it is a reflection of a chain of mistakes, from the painful decision in the past to the stubborn silence of the present. And now, with everything dragged into the light, it is Brook Lynn who lacks the courage to face it. Her inability to accept Gio is more than just a knee-jerk reaction, it is the clearest sign that she has never forgiven herself. And when a mother cannot forgive herself, she can never fully embrace her child. Lulu may have been the one to ignite the truth, but Brook Lynn is the one burning down what little trust remains. She doesn't realize that while she's trying to protect herself from resurfacing memories, she's destroying every chance of building something real. And while Dante struggles between love and rage, and Sonny screams in silence, Gio, the boy who was abandoned, misunderstood, now carries a new wound, deeper than anything he's ever endured, the feeling of being rejected by his own mother. Even after the truth is out. Gio, a young man who once lived with the fragile hope that he might find a place in a world full of chaos, is now drowning in unspoken pain.
The truth is out, his biological mother is none other than Brook Lynn, the woman he admired, respected, and longed to connect with. But the cruelest part isn't learning the truth, it's the cold, confused, nearly complete rejection he faces from Brook Lynn when she sees him. No open arms. No joyful tears. No explanation from a mother. Just deadly silence and panicked eyes. As if Gio himself were a ghost from a past she never wanted to revisit. For Gio, that moment isn't just a shock. It's the complete collapse of the fragile hope he had left. He no longer knows who he is or what place he holds in this family. He doesn't need to hear the words of rejection, Brook Lynn's look, her step back, her refusal to meet his gaze, say it all. In that moment, Gio isn't a child being reunited, but a piece of the past being denied, a painful reminder of mistakes no one wants to face. What Gio feels is more than sadness. It's grown into a quiet disillusionment, a form of emotional self-defense. He starts closing off, refusing to listen, refusing to let anyone tell him that he should understand his mother. That Brook Lynn had her reasons, that the past was complicated and everyone was to blame. To Gio, it's simple, he was her son, and she turned away. He refuses to emotionally adjust. Refuses to play along with the messy, chaotic drama others are trying to impose, as if hugging, crying, and forgiving could magically make everything okay. Gio doesn't speak much. But his silence mirrors everything that's wrong. He rejects all reconciliation efforts, avoids family conversations, and doesn't respond to explanations. He walks out of gatherings.
leaving behind confused adults tangled in their own guilt. Behavioral adjustment, that's what everyone else is trying. But Gio is rejecting it. He doesn't want to bend himself to fit emotional rules set by others, doesn't want to change just to make everyone else feel better. And in doing so, his refusal becomes a new kind of adjustment, a sharp, silent rebellion, a declaration that, I also have the right not to forgive. The madness in this emotional unraveling doesn't lie in explosive anger, but in the calm, clear refusal Gio maintains. While everyone else tries to soothe the tension with reconciliation, Gio stands still in the eye of the storm. He doesn't cry, scream, or beg, but neither does he open up. He simply refuses. Refuses hugs that came too late. Refuses apologies offered when everything has already fallen apart. Refuses to be a part of the script others have written for his life. That refusal unsettles everyone around him. They don't know how to approach a boy who isn't behaving like the reunited son. He doesn't fulfill anyone's expectations. He doesn't bring emotional joy, nor does he provide a healing moment. He simply reacts truthfully. He was rejected, and now he rejects back. Within that silence is a real storm. Brook Lynn begins to feel she's losing Gio forever, not because she doesn't love him, but because she can't break through the wall she herself built out of fear. She wants to reach him, but Gio is no longer within her grasp. And Dante, caught between the two people he loves most, can do nothing but watch it all fall apart, piece by piece. This story is no longer simply about the truth coming out, it's about whether truth can heal a heart that has already been shattered. And in Joe's case, that break may run too deep for any emotional repair to ever mend. Gio, after all the pain he endured when the truth about his origins came to light, came to a decisive and irreversible decision. He would reject the Quartermain family, reject the relationship with the mother who abandoned him, and refuse to be part of a family system that he no longer felt he belonged to. For Gio, Brook Lynn's inability to accept him when the truth came out was not only a denial of his motherhood, but also a cruel declaration that he was an extra in his own story. And if his biological mother could not open her arms when it all came to light, then Joe's turning away from them was inevitable. The decision was not made on impulse, but the result of deep reflection. Gio sees the Quartermain family, from Brook Lynn to Lois. From those he once believed were allies to familiar faces now strangers, and he realizes that no true love is built on a foundation of secrecy and silence. He doesn't need a home that only cares about reputation and image. He needs truth, understanding, and most of all, the courage to love despite the past. And that's what this family can't give him. Joe's rejection is not just a simple act of retreat, but a turning point that marks a new chapter in his life, one where he actively redraws his own boundaries and decides who gets to enter his life. What's special is that in the void he feels from the Quartermain family, new interactions gradually emerge, this time from the Corinthos family. A family known for its complexity, power, and sometimes darkness, but possessing what Gio craves: absolute loyalty, unconditional protection, and a very personal definition of the word family. The Corinthos family, especially Sonny, do not see Gio as an abandoned child in need of pity, but as someone standing at a crossroads, needing a direction and a place to lean on. Sonny's appearance in the moments when Gio feels like he has lost everything is not only salvation, but also a testament that no matter how cruel the world is, there are still people willing to step forward, not because of responsibility, not because of status, but because of humanity. Sonny, with the intuition of someone who has experienced loss, realizes that Joe's hurt does not need advice, but needs presence, needs a father who is not blood-related, but strong enough to support a broken soul. It's that new, profound connection that changes Joe's trajectory. He begins to have candid conversations with members of the Corinthos family, from Carly, who knows what it's like to lose a child and reclaim his life from grief, to Michael, who has carried the weight of adult decisions. Each conversation, each encounter, makes Gio feel less alone. He doesn't have to fit in, doesn't have to apologize for existing, doesn't have to pretend to be strong. There, he can start over, not as a child who needs to be accepted, but as a man choosing his own path. Joe's emotional shift is sending a seismic shockwave through the Quartermain family's already fractured world. Brook Lynn begins to feel what she never thought possible, true loss. Not because Gio left, but because he left silently, without giving her any chance to make amends. Every day without Gio is a silent reminder that she has lost the most precious thing in her life. Lois, who once thought she could protect everything by controlling everything, now understands that power cannot hold love, and concealment cannot protect anyone from the truth. Meanwhile, the Corinthos family is opening its arms in a way no one expected. No fuss. No strings attached, just a quiet but steady presence. And in that gentleness, Gio is reshaping his shattered trust. He knows that the past will always be a part of him. But the past no longer defines the future. Gio doesn't have to be a Quartermain if it means accepting silence and rejection. He can be himself, no title, no pedigree, as long as he can be true to his feelings and has a real family willing to walk with him through the dark nights. Joe's story is more than just a painful journey. It is also proof that sometimes, family is not where you are born, but where you choose to belong. And Gio, by his decision to reject a distorted past and accept a future of his own, is rewriting the very fate that others have tried to impose on his life.